Welcome to another Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute colossus that is the UEFA Champions League. We're going to trace its journey from a hastily organized post-war tournament into the absolute pinnacle of global club football. But right off the bat, I've got to ask you something. How in the world did a single moment of frustration from a French newspaper editor end up sparking a multi-billion-dollar modern sporting empire? It's a pretty incredible origin story, and the answer lies in a bitter dispute over who could truly call themselves the best in the world. So let's get into it.
Section 1. A journalist's bold idea. To really wrap our heads around the Champions League, we've got to travel all the way back to the mid-1950s. Back then, your domestic league was the only true test of a team's mettle, and cross-border matches, well, they were mostly just friendly exhibitions. Take this situation with Gabriel Hanot, a former player who became an editor for the French sports daily L'Équipe. In December 1954, the English club Wolverhampton Wanderers beat the Hungarian champions Budapest Honvéd 3-2 in a friendly. The English press proudly declared Wolves the champions of the world. Hanot was having absolutely none of it. He fired back, insisting that no single club could claim global supremacy without actually stepping up and competing against the rest of Europe's elite on a regular basis.
And you know what's wild is just how fast this whole thing escalated from Hanot's frustration into real action. In December 1954, that Wolves match happens. By April 1955, Hanot and his colleague Jacques Ferrand had literally published a full-blown blueprint for a pan-European knockout tournament in L'Équipe. They even started inviting clubs themselves. It built up so much grassroots momentum that UEFA, who were initially kind of dragging their feet, had to step in and officially sanction it. By September 1955, just 9 months after that friendly, the very first 16-team tournament was kicking off.
Now here's a little secret about that inaugural 1955-56 season. It wasn't exactly the pure Champions Cup we think of today. Actually, it was strictly invite only. The 16 teams that played were handpicked by L'Équipe, and they chose clubs based on prestige and how many fans they could draw, not strictly because they were league champions. In fact, the organizers were literally fixing the first-round matchups to make sure they got the best show possible rather than doing a random draw.
Section 2. The First Kings of Europe.
So, out of that experimental first run, a true dynasty was born, and it set the ultimate benchmark for greatness in European football. Just look at this number. 127,621. That is the official, record-breaking attendance at Hampden Park in Glasgow for the 1960 European Cup final. It's a record that still stands today. It really just goes to show you how rapidly this tournament captured the public's imagination.
And those lucky fans who packed into Hampden Park that day, well, they got to witness another mind-blowing record that hasn't been touched since. 10. That is the highest number of goals ever scored in a final. Real Madrid just completely dismantled West Germany's Eintracht Frankfurt in a wild, breathtaking 7-3 victory.
Let's break down exactly what went down in that match, because honestly, it is the textbook definition of a masterclass. This wasn't just another win. This locked in Real Madrid's 5th consecutive European Cup title. They had won every single edition since the tournament began. Imagine 70 million TV viewers watching Alfredo Di Stefano net a hat-trick, while his teammate Ferenc Puskas casually drops 4 goals. It was an exhibition of pure, unstoppable attacking dominance. Real Madrid had firmly established themselves as the colossus that everyone else was going to have to chase.
Section 3. The Tactical Warfare Era.
As we roll into the 60s and 70s, the competition morphs from an attacking showcase into this high-stakes, tactical chess match. You had these incredible clashing philosophies. On one hand, you've got Inter Milan in the 60s absolutely mastering Catenaccio. Think ultra-defensive, a man-marking sweeper, zonal defense, and just totally lethal counterattacks. They won back-to-back titles in 64 and 65 and barely conceded any goals doing it. Then, shifting into the 70s, you get Ajax, led by the legendary Johan Cruyff, pulling out total football. This was the total opposite. Fluid positional interchange, high pressing, and such technical versatility that any player could basically take over any position. Ajax rode that brilliant system to 3 consecutive titles from 1971 to 1973.
But smack in the middle of these massive tactical shifts, we get what is arguably one of the greatest stories in sports history. In 1967, Celtic became the first British club to win it all, taking down Inter Milan's famous Catenaccio defense 2-1. But here is the crazy part, the part that really matters. They did it with a squad where every single one of their 11 players was born within a 30-mile radius of Glasgow. Dubbed the Lisbon Lions, they proved to the world that homegrown, local talent playing an expansive attacking style could completely conquer Europe's most rigid defenses.
Section 4. Triumphs and Tragedies.
We're moving now into an era that saw incredible success on the pitch, but one that also witnessed the darkest hour in European football history. In the years leading up to the 1985 final at Heysel Stadium in Brussels, English clubs had been completely dominant. They had won 5 straight finals between 1977 and 1981. However, just before the 1985 final between Liverpool and Juventus, a section of Liverpool supporters charged into a neutral area. This provoked a panic and a massive crush against a decaying concrete wall. Tragically, the wall collapsed. 39 people lost their lives, and 600 more were injured. In response to the tragedy, UEFA imposed an indefinite ban on all English clubs from European competition. The ban lasted for 5 years and completely altered the competitive landscape of the sport.
Fast forward to the early 1990s, and the tournament was gearing up for a massive transformation. In 1992, the old European Cup gets a huge rebrand and officially becomes the UEFA Champions League. They ditched the pure knockout-only format and brought in the group stages, which meant a lot more guaranteed matches. And eventually, they opened the doors to multiple teams from the strongest leagues instead of just the reigning champions. This single pivot skyrocketed TV and commercial revenues and quite literally changed the sport forever.
Section 5. Birth of the Modern Era.
So that brings us right to the modern spectacle we all know today. We're talking billionaire budgets, super clubs, and massive global broadcasts. In the early 2000s, Real Madrid's president Florentino Perez rolls out the Galacticos strategy. The plan? Buy the biggest superstars on the planet for world record fees. They snagged Luis Figo from their rivals for 60 million euros, and the very next year, Zinedine Zidane for 77 million. And you know what? That mega finance strategy completely paid off on the pitch. In 2002, Zinedine hits one of the most iconic volleys in football history to secure Madrid's 9th title. The tournament had officially become a clash of absolute financial titans.
But hey, even with all that money flying around, the Champions League still delivers this raw, unpredictable drama that you just can't script. If you need proof, look no further than the 2005 final, famously known as the Miracle of Istanbul. AC Milan, with a ridiculously stacked lineup, was up 3-0 against Liverpool at halftime. The game looked completely over, right? Well, in an absolutely legendary second half, Liverpool scores 3 goals in just 6 minutes to tie it up, and they end up winning the whole thing on penalty kicks. It's exactly this kind of heart-stopping magic that makes the modern tournament a true global phenomenon.
So, if there's one big takeaway from this explainer, it's that the Champions League simply never stops evolving. Case in point? In 2024, the tournament underwent its biggest structural change in decades, adopting what's called the Swiss model. Basically, this format scraps the traditional smaller groups for a single massive league phase for all the teams. The whole idea here is to boost commercial appeal by guaranteeing more high-stakes matches between the biggest heavyweights much earlier in the competition, while still trying to maintain competitive equity.
We've watched Gabriel Hinaud's bold 1955 idea grow through Real Madrid's early monopoly, the fierce tactical battles, the tragic lows, and straight into the billionaire modern era. And that leaves us with one really fascinating thought to ponder. As the tournament steps into this new Swiss model format, what is the next dynasty going to look like? Who is going to step up and conquer the next evolution of this European colossus? Thanks so much for watching, and keep exploring.